Hey everyone, and welcome to a new episode of my tutorial park. Now I already built several rides in the park, and today I want to add another ride, which will be a river rapids ride. Now I've built quite a few of these in the past, in several different parks, with also quite a few different themes, and I quite enjoy making these coasters. Although it can be pretty difficult to make them look nice. And yeah, it will take quite a bit of landscaping, it will be quite a bit of work, but the end result is usually worth it. Now, if you want to build one of these rides, it usually helps if you have a bit of elevation to play with in your park. So yeah, I actually think a spot like this will be perfect. So I think I will build this river rapids ride behind the junior coaster, and it will probably cover this area over here. Now, river rapids rides tend to take up quite a bit of space. Yeah, in this episode I will try to build a nice one in this space I have over here. Now, I'm not going to do anything too crazy. Sometimes I like to put a big drop at the end, or make whirlpools, or other kinds of trickery. I'll see what kinds of elements I can work in. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll try to keep it simple. Anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is extend these paths a little bit. Now, something which I often see people do in the parks is surround every ride with paths. That's definitely not something you probably want to do. So, if you want to surround something, loop back your paths, I think it's usually a good idea to at least have 3 or 4 rides in the area that you encircle, instead of encircling every ride. But yeah, once again, just my preference. Also in real parks, usually don't see every ride surrounded by paths. Usually you can see a ride from one side, and that's typically it, unless a ride is really sprawling and covers a huge area. Anyway, I think that's enough talking. Let's extend these paths a bit, so I don't build myself into a corner. Alright, I've extended these paths a bit. Now you can see here at the beginning I have these areas of paths a bit larger. But as I spread out them, I try to limit them to 2 wide area. That's because 3 wide paths can be handled pretty horribly by the game. So let me quickly bring up the paint debug window and then show wide paths. And basically all the white tiles are tiles that will be ignored by guests for the path finding. The game does this, so this way it limits the amount of junctions that guests use for pathfinding. So basically, when a guest tries to get to a location, it will try to find a path to that location, and it will at every junction path split, and then it can look in different directions. And basically, the guests have a number of junctions they can look ahead. And yeah, if all these paths, every path tile was acceptable for guests for pathfinding, then there would be a lot of junctions everywhere. And basically in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, this is really what hurts the pathfinding of guests. You use any double paths, every path tile is treated as a junction, and guests will get horribly lost. So in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, it was actually changed into some sort of grid. So these large paths would be basically divided into single paths, and then there would be a grid every now and then. And in OpenRCT2, it has been made even simpler, and that basically all paths are turned into single wide paths like this. But that does mean that when you have a very long 3 wide path, it can be difficult for guests to, for example, go from this point to this point, as they will go all the way around. So if you have a very long stretch of 3 wide path, the guests can be made to take a huge detour to get to their destination. So in my opinion, that's why the grid from RCT2 is probably better. Anyway, path has now been extended, and now it's time for me to start working on the River Rapids ride. Now, when you make a River Rapids ride, you can, of course, use the track style from the normal game. But in my opinion, it doesn't really look nice, and it has these really tight turns, and I feel like it doesn't really work like a real River Rapids ride. I prefer to make them with wide turns. I cannot build them now, and if I, for example, I use a different ride type and then turn it into a River Rapids ride, you can see the wide turn actually turns invisible. So in order to make it look nice, I'm going to use a different track style. I'll just use the steeplechase like I just did, for example. Then I will build my track with wider turns, and then later I will just do landscaping under it to make it look like the ride is on top of water. And then I will build barriers around it with the other track, like the monorail track, to make it actually look nicer. Now I will first just sketch out a layout. I will make the ride start here at a higher point. Most River Rapids rides start at the high point, and then I will gradually make it move down. Probably just gonna make it move down, travel around here in sort of like a clockwise fashion, until finally here at the bottom it reaches the lowest point. And then here there will be a lift hill leading it up again. Now, and there's basically two kinds of stations that you will see on most real River Rapids rides. One style is with a station high up, and then guests slowly drop down here into the water. And usually before the station, there's a lift hill that takes the guests that slowly takes the guests up to the station. And here at the top, guests will climb into their vehicles. And there's another style that you will see also on a lot of River Rapids rides, and that's a rotating platform. So I will just show a different ride type to just use a different ride type to show it. Basically, just a big curve. You could do an entrance station here, an exit station here. So basically, guests enter and exit on a rotating platform. That would be right over here. The guests get out when the boat arrives at the platform, and then somewhere on the rotating platform, guests get in again. So the easiest way to do that is just with two stations like this, and just give one station only an entrance and the other one only an exit. That's the type of station that I'm gonna build over here for this River Rapids ride. I think it will be fun to show you a way to do this. Okay, so I will just now sketch out the layout. I will use steeplechase track for it, but you can use any track that has the wide turns. What will be important is to not make the track too tight. It's usually better to leave a bit of space in between the turns, so you have enough room to do all the landscaping. Anyway, let's just sketch out a layout. Okay, I've now made a simple layout for the River Rapids ride. As you can see, it's quite wide. Now the landscaping here will probably give me a little bit of trouble here, but you will see why in a bit. Anyway, here will be the rotating platform for the ride. I accidentally forgot to also put a station piece here, so I added in later. And yeah, throughout the ride, several short drops, and finally here it returns back to the station. So yeah, probably not the ride with the most exciting elements, but I think this will be a good way to show you how to build a River Rapids ride. Now, the next thing I'm going to do for all this track is to lower the ground under it even more, and that way I can add some water under the entire ride track. So yeah, that's what I'll do next. Here you can probably immediately see the issue with the landscaping here, and that's when I add water here, it will look pretty silly. So I'll have to do something here later. Okay, now that the land is lowered everywhere under the ride, I'm going to add some water under it. Right, I've added some water under the track everywhere. Now, I've now changed the ride to a lift, because that's what we'll use later. But you can see when we do that, all the track turns invisible. Let's also choose the River Rapids rafts, the River Rapids boats. And now the ride technically does already work. It just doesn't look as nice as it could yet. But you can see the boats just spawn and they will go throughout the track without any trouble. Anyway, I will just keep it as a steeplechase track for now, because we will need to see where the track is if we're going to add some barriers around it. So that's the next thing that I will do. Yeah, add some barriers for the boats. Now, for the barriers, I will use a monorail track, just like I used for the go-karts, as I think it's an easy way to add them for the River Rapids ride. Right, now that I've added these barriers around the track, it's time to yeah, make them actually look nice. Now, what you probably don't want is more water outside of your barriers. So probably your best bet is to yeah, hide these bits of water that are behind the monorail barriers. What I usually like to do is add some plants and do a little bit of landscaping behind them, just to hide them as much as possible. Now, actually, I think before I try to hide any of these barriers, I'm going to actually make these slopes look a little bit nicer. So for that, I like to use Splash Boat's track. So I will just make some track pieces. So I'll make a slope upwards and a bit of track down, and I'm going to copy and paste these track pieces into place where I want them to be. So with the tile inspector, I select this track piece, the start of a slope downwards, and I will paste it here at the start of this slope downwards. Now let's rotate it and let's move it down like so. I think this will look nice. And I'll do the same with this track piece. So now later, when we make this track invisible, like so, you can see it looks like this raft yeah, travels up here and then uses this to travel down the slope. Now let's just finish this slope. Now, usually when you move track pieces over each other like this, you'll have to be careful that you don't actually merge the track with each other. For example, if this raft were to move onto this track and continue, then right here it would crash. So an easy way to prevent merges is yeah, to copy a track piece above where you want it to be and then lower it down. And for example, here we have two track pieces which are exactly at the same height, 69. So the lower one is now lift 1, which is the river rapids. And the top one is splash boats. And because the lift 1 or the river rapids is lower, the boats will stay on the river rapids track. If I move the splash boats track lower now, the boats would move to the splash boats track and then they would crash here. So yeah, to prevent this from happening, always keep the splash boats track above the river rapids track in the list. And the easiest way to do this is like I just said, like I just showed. So make the track higher than the original track and lower it down. And it will always be higher in the list. I will quickly do these three slopes here as well. Now, to make these slopes look nicer, you could even copy these track pieces to the sides as well. So that's what I'm going to quickly do now. And that will just make the slopes look a little bit wider. Right, I recolored these slopes in the watercolor to make them blend in a little bit more. And for these sections over here, I'm just going to put an extra layer of track above the monorail track. I think I'll just go for extra monorail track. And yeah, that will again be to just make it blend in more. Right now it really looks like it interrupts the monorail track, so that's not that doesn't look very nice. So doubling up should make it look nicer. Alright, something else which I think will make it look even nicer is to also extend this monorail track downwards a little bit into the water. So I'm just going to add one layer of monorail track here below the existing track. Again, just to make it blend in a little bit more. Alright, you can see at some point I just made the monorail track a little bit higher. That's probably where I'll add some landscaping features later. But yeah, don't be afraid to play a bit with the height of the monorail track, wherever it suits you. Now, at quite a few spots you still see monorail supports sticking out. And I know a trick that will allow you to hide these supports. So what I typically do is I just place some flowers like this, and then in the tile inspector I select these flowers, and then I just move them below ground. Now sadly it still shows some supports for the below water track piece that I just added. So I'll just move this these gardens lower in the list like so they're just above surface, but still below all the tracks. And all the supports over here are now gone. So I just going to show you again for this track piece. So I'll just place some gardens here. I select these gardens. I'll just move them below all the track pieces, and then I move the gardens under the ground. And now you can see the gardens here under the ground, and the supports now are gone. You could use any scenery piece that removes support. Some people like to use clocks, for example, but clocks actually have a bit of code associated to them, so that they change depending on the time of your computer. So I'll just use a simple element like the gardens. You could also use roofs, for example. You can see roofs also hide the supports. And you could probably also use some invisible scenery pieces if you want. Some of them also block supports. So I'm going to quickly remove this or hide the support for all these monorail track pieces. Now I probably get a comment now saying, hey, can't you just use the invisible color for the monorail? You could also do that, but you can see it still leaves the footers in place. Alright, quickly going to remove all the supports for these for this monorail. Now, another way to remove support for a track piece is to simply move the track piece below surface. Then the supports are also gone. But it has the unintended side effect for people who use the software rendering drawing engine that that track piece will become incredibly glitchy. So if you intend to share the park with other people, I don't recommend hiding supports over water by moving track piece under surface. Okay, I think I've gotten rid of most of the supports under the monorail track. Now, if there's any others left, I will find them at a later spot, probably. Alright, something which I haven't done yet is to make this lift hill here look nice. Now, there's several tracks you could use for that. You could keep using this splash boat track. I think I'm going to try using a wooden coaster track. Sometimes I actually also use a hardline twister coaster track, which I think also works pretty well. Alright, I think something like this works pretty well. And you can do this however you like. This is just something that I just came up with. So just a little bit of landscaping, and with these blocks it really looks like the boats are guided into this lift hill here. So I quite like the way this looks. Now the next thing I'm going to do is actually make the landscaping around the coaster look a little bit nicer. Now, wherever possible, I'm just going to make the land around these barriers a little bit higher, and on other spots, yeah, we'll just try to hide the water that's still next to the track with some plants and other decorations. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to accomplish is that no more water is visible next or behind these barriers. Now, for real river rapids rides, you will usually see a little bit of a lake at the bottom. This could also be a spot to park some extra boats, and basically it's the spot where the water all goes to before it gets pumped up back to the top. Now I'm not really sure if I have much space for any of that. I think I could have a little pond here on the side. I could probably still do that, and I'll probably also park a boat or two then in this area. So yeah, time to do a little bit of landscaping. When placing these decorations, you could place them on the same location as the barrier, for example, over here on the straight line. But as the boats pass by, there's a good chance that the track will, or the scenery piece will glitch through the monorail barrier. So what I like to do, for example, over here, so instead of building it in like this, I will hold Control like this, and then I hold Shift and I build it a little bit above the barrier, and that will just make it less glitchy. I think this is a good way to fill in this area with some bushes, for example. Okay, I think I will leave it like this for now. I think I covered up most of the water next to the track with rocks or with bushes. And of course, something which we still need to do now is make the actual rotating platform station. Now, for that, I will just quickly make a queue and an exit path. Now, since the station's over here, the platform will be here. I will make the queue exit, or I'll make the queue and the exit path on this side. Let me quickly do that. Alright, I built the entrance and exit paths. Now I also put some more of these monorail track pieces just to make it look like this path here is actually more supported. Not really necessary, you can of course build this however you like. Anyway, now what we still need to do is actually make the platform here. Let me quickly lower the land. I will also remove some of the water here. And for the platform I'm going to use some wooden coaster track, and we'll also have some vehicles running on top of it. Okay, now the water is looks nice. In the middle I'll lower the water because we don't need any here. Especially here we'll want the boats to go around this wooden around this platform, and with the water at the side it will look the best. Something which we can also do actually is make some splash boats track here. I'll build it in the opposite direction. Let's see if that works nicely. So here's another option what you could do. Then you can have the wooden track a little bit lower, and you don't actually have to have any water here in the middle. But you can play around with different ways to make this look nice. I think I'm actually going to remove this splash boat track and just work with what we have here. Alright, so the wooden track is in place. I just built it at a normal height now, and I'm going to add a little station over here. Okay, here we now have the wooden coaster track. Now here we see, you can see the station for the ride. Put some more track behind it so we can spawn in all the vehicles that we need. I put a little chain lift here leading up to this track. Let's change it to sports cars. We'll just have one train, and I want to have enough vehicles to fill this section of track. Alright, I will now spawn these vehicles for this rotating platform. So I'll just test and immediately close the ride. Now I want these vehicles to look like a rotating platform. So I will take the ride vehicle editor plugin. I'll select vehicle 2, because for a car ride the first vehicle is an invisible vehicle, and all the other ones are actually visible vehicles. At the end is another invisible vehicles. So I will select vehicle 2. I will here select all following vehicles on this train. We'll synchronize, and I will enable type and variant and mass. So for vehicle 2 and following, I will change them all to reverser cars. Now you can see we have all these reverser coaster cars, and I will change the variant to 2. So now we have the bogies here that are normally used for these vehicles, and they work well as a platform. Now there's one issue that can pop up, and that's none of these vehicles actually have any mass. And if we let the train go now, it will fly off the track. Yeah, I've also selected mass here. I will select all vehicles on the train, and I will just give them 100 mass. I think you can put any number here, but the train definitely needs some mass, or it will just fly off and crash. So if we test the ride now, it should just gently move on. So here we can now see it move on this rotating platform. Now, since this ride just will keep going on and on and on infinitely, we don't want it to block any possible stat calculation in the park. So I'll just close the ride, but I just close it once and it will just keep going. Its stats will never be calculated. Looks like some weird stuff did just happen here. These stats are insane. But yeah, we'll just keep going like this, and it will not hamper any stat calculation. I think it looks pretty cool. Okay, quickly going to make these track pieces here that lead down invisible, like so. And now we still need to make the middle part look nice. Now first off, I will hide the entrance and exit for the River Rapids ride. I will also make this path here invisible. And then I will try to make this platform look a bit nicer. Now as you can see, these paths stay a bit glitchy like this. So I'm going for the plan I had earlier, where I'm going to move this platform down a bit. And for this track around it, I will just use the splash boats track, and that way we don't actually need any water here, and then I think everything will look a little bit nicer. Alright, it took a bit of work, but now we have our rotating platform here. And now it doesn't look as glitchy as it did previously. Now let me quickly recolor this platform here. Alright, I actually quite like the way this looks. And now we can finally open the River Rapids. Okay, now this is quite a simple River Rapids ride. I didn't put any more difficult to make elements on it. Something which you could easily add, for example, is a waterfall somewhere. I think I'll just quickly add a waterfall here, just to show you a possible way how you could do that. Of course, this is just one example of how you could do something like this. You could also actually add some rapids to the ride. Yeah, of course, we don't have the original track. The lift doesn't have rapid elements, so we cannot use that. So if we want to make the boat rock back and forth somewhere, we can definitely do that. So for that, I will close the ride. I will change it back to River Rapids. And let's just remove some of the track here. And we'll have some rapids pieces. And let's just ride back into a lift. Now when the boats arrive here, they will rock back and forth, just like they would on a normal River Rapids ride. Now, of course, we could also add some rapids pieces in some spots to make the water look more like white water. So for that I'll just build an extra river rapids ride, and we'll copy and paste this river rapids where we see fit. For example, we could try putting it over here. Don't know if this will look nice, but we will see. And we could do that at every slope if we wanted. You can see the boat rock back and forth here. I think this actually looks pretty nice to have these rapids over here at the bottom of these slopes. So I will also copy and paste these to the other slopes that we have. Alright, I will now quickly just do a little bit of more decorating on this ride off camera, because it isn't really part of the tutorial, and I just want to try out some things. But after that I'll get back to you. Alright, I've opened the ride back up. I've kept the extra decorations quite minimal, added a little house here in the middle, and I've also added a little operator booth. I normally would find it closer to the station, but I didn't really have space for it anymore, so I just put it over here, where it still has a good view over the station. Now I also added another patron to the park. Here you can see another entertainer, so I will quickly name this entertainer after one of my patrons. Alright, Shin Kitchen, thanks a lot for the support. You will now have a nice spot in the park as an entertainer. Now, if you also want to support me on Patreon, you will also find a spot in the park. You can find a link to my Patreon channel in the video description. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something today, please consider giving this video a like. It would really help out my channel. Let me know what you think of this tutorial in the comments. I always read all my comments, and I'll try to answer any questions that you may still have. So yeah, hope this episode might entice some of you to also build a river rapids ride. They're quite they can be quite tricky to work to make it look nice. And it's quite a lot of work to make them actually look nice, especially these barriers, everything around it, all the landscaping. But in the end, I think it is a nice addition to any park. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.